I've always liked unicorns, and this is a really good unicorn. Hi, and welcome to a cEDH card review for Emiel the Blessed. It's a 4 mana cost white, and 2 generic unicorn, a 4/4 with 2 different abilities. First one is an activate ability for 3 mana, exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So this is flickering things. The second ability is whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 hybrid green or white mana. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on it. If it is a unicorn, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. I can't emphasize enough or scream loud enough how good of an upgrade this unicorn is going to be for Sisay. And I think now Sisay superfriends is dead. This is going to replace and upgrade the complete combo package in so many different ways. And we're gonna talk about that soon, but first we should talk about this card in general for other things than Sisay. Sisay is gonna be the great beneficiary of this unicorn, but there are some other decks that are probably going to enjoy this as well. There is, for an example, a 2-card combo with Temur Sabertooth and Dockside Extortionist. You pay 2 mana to cast Dockside Extortionist, then you activate Temur Sabertooth by paying 2 mana to return the goblin back to hand and recast it. And if your opponent got 5 or more artifacts and enchantments together, you're going to generate infinite mana. And there are a few commanders out there that are actually winning the game this way. But the unicorn, I can't pronounce that name, the Blessed something, can do this actually a little bit stronger. Instead of paying 4 mana totally, you pay 3 mana to win the game with infinite mana. So with this unicorn, your opponents only need to have 4 artifacts and enchantments together to actually generate infinite mana. But here comes a tricky problem for commanders in general. What commander is actually gonna play this? For example, Thrasius could win the game with some infinite mana, but if Thrasius' other partner is Tymna the Weaver, you don't have access to the color identity of red, which means you can't put Dockside Extortionist inside that deck. If you're playing Akiri or Bruce, then you can actually go for this, because now you have the color identity of red and white, which is necessary. If you are playing on, let's say, Kenrith, you could win the game through this with some infinite mana, but I've seen Kenrith decks play without Temur Sabertooth, and this is basically just a Temur Sabertooth variant, so I don't think this is going to be an auto-include, but I think this is something to consider for some Kenrith decks, depending a little bit about their player preference. But a commander that I definitely think is going to receive an amazing upgrade from this unicorn is Koulos Tireless Pilgrim. Koulos can win the game with some infinite mana from Dockside Extortionist and this unicorn and Temur Sabertooth. But Koulos can also grind amazingly with this thing. So pay 3 mana to flicker your commander Koulos, ETB effect, grab a whatever land, and you can really do some amazing grindy gameplays with this thing. And the bonus ability, putting +1/+1 counters on your creatures, is a cute thing for late game scenarios when you want to beat phase. So this is a perfect 2-card combo for your deck if you're allowed to play the synergies that you have that can also help you go to a beatdown scenario smashing phase, because this is actually buffing your board state's army. But I would also like to mention an existing 3-card combo with that secondary ability. So if you have a Phyrexian Altar, you can sacrifice a creature for any mana whatsoever, and a Murderous Red Cap with Persist. All of these things are important. So you sacrifice your Murderous Red Cap for a white or green mana, it goes back to your graveyard. Because of the Persist, it's gonna come back with a -1/-1 counter. Trigger the unicorn. Use the white or green mana to put a +1/+1 counter on the Murderous Red Cap, negating, removing both -1 and +1/+1 counters from the Murderous Red Cap, and from here you have infinite damage. And now this is a 3-card combo, so that is kinda bad, but if these cards for some good reason are already amazing in your deck, for example, Dockside Extortionist and this unicorn are already included in your deck, maybe you can find some use for a Phyrexian Altar, and maybe you can find some use for a Murderous Red Cap in other situations for your deck as well, then this is a functional okay-ish 3-card combo, I would say. But now we're here to talk about why we're all here. Sisay. Alright. Let's say we have a Bloom Tender in play and a Sisay that is currently a 4/4. So we activate Bloom Tender, then activate Sisay, and we find the Revi Imperial Tacticianer. And with the ETB effect, we're going to untap Bloom Tender. Let's tap the Bloom Tender again and then find the Horsey. Now, let's say we don't have any more mana. We currently need 3 more mana to actually win the game. We can actually solve this by going to combat with, let's say, Sisay or any creature whatsoever. As long as a creature gets through, we're gonna get an effect from the Revi Imperial Tacticianer to untap the Bloom Tender. And then we tap the Bloom Tender to flicker the Revi using the horse. The Revi comes into play, untaps Bloom Tender, and from here, you're gonna have infinite mana. And with infinite mana, you're gonna win the game with Sisay. We can do the exact same thing with Feyburrow Elder. And we can also do the exact same thing with the Dockside Extortionist. Let's say you cast Dockside Extortionist, and let's say Sisay is a 5/5. Now that part is actually a little bit tricky. We can actually solve this, and we're gonna get to that soon, but then you activate Sisay, and you find the Horsey. And if you have 3 more remaining mana, you win the game. Now this is actually something of an iffy situation. You need 8 mana, Sisay to be a 5/5 to win the game from this. However, this is still an existing 2-card combo inside the deck. You could actually draw both of them, casting Dockside Extortionist and then gaining a few treasures, using those treasures to cast the Horsey, and then using some mana to activate the Horsey and gain infinite mana, and then cast Sisay that is going to be a 3/3, but then you have infinite mana, and then you're going to win the game somehow with your Sisay. Now let's actually take a look at the existing Sisay Super Friends combo. We have Amenatu, the Fate Shifter, Koulos the Dragon God, and Oath of the Fairy, which are all together performing the exact same thing what this horse is doing. So with Amenatu's -1, you can flicker something. Koulos the Dragon God has all activated abilities of all planeswalkers in play, for example Amenatu. And with Oath of the Fairy you can activate twice, and from here you can infinitely flicker your planeswalkers and gain infinite mana flickering lands. But what the horse is actually doing is the exact same thing from only 1 card. So with this, you're upgrading your deck by removing these 3 cards and moving them into 1 card Horsey. So the upgrade is actually increased deck space. And it's always appreciated when you can make your combo package smaller. But there actually is a really good argument on having Amenatu hanging around. For Sisay to be able to find the horse, she has to be a 5/5, and that isn't always guaranteed. But for Sisay to be able to find Amenatu, she only needs to be a 4/4, and that is a lot easier. Usually, the legendary cards we have inside the deck are on the CMC2 with 2 different color identities, which means that from only a 1 card, 2 mana cost with 2 different colors legendary permanent, Sisay is going to be a 4/4. So that condition is easily met. So we could keep Amenatu for that reason. And in general, there's a lot of different targets for Amenatu. Amenatu is actually a card that is okay-ish inside the deck. But here comes an additional upgrade with the Horsey, making Code of Calling into a 1-card combo that can win the game in instant speed, as long as you have enough mana, and Sisay is a 5/5. So here's what you're gonna do. Let's say someone is casting an Ad Nauseam somewhere during the turn. In response, you're casting Code of Calling, which is, by the way, a really good card in general. Sure, it costs 3 green mana, and that is a lot, but it's in instant speed, and you can actually tap Sisay and another random whatever hate bear for making the convoke cost drop, so it's generally only 3 green mana, and that isn't actually hard to achieve. And then you find Dockside Extortionist. While this is still on the stack, Dockside will ETB and generate a bunch of treasures, and with those treasures you activate Sisay and you find the Horsey. And still, while this is on the stack, you generate infinite mana with the Horsey and Dockside Extortionist. Temur Sabertooth can't do this, because you can't cast Dockside Extortionist in instant speed. But then, when you have infinite mana, you can somehow win the game with your Sisay. Your entire game plan could simply be make Sisay into a 5-5, have the mana that you need, grab Code of Calling with some form of tutor, and then just pass the turn. And wait until the perfect timing window when people are tapping out, putting a lot of counter spells on the stack and some other win cons on the stack, and then in response you cast Code of Calling and just steals the win out of nowhere during an opponent's turn. I think this is an amazing upgrade for Sisay, and the horse just enabled this completely. One thing I haven't mentioned in this video is how are we actually going to win the game? Sure, we generate infinite mana, but we're gonna activate Sisay and find something that's gonna kill our opponents, right? Honestly, I don't really care how we're going to do that. There are so many different pathways we could go for that is somehow going to win the game. For example, you could have Thrasius inside the deck. That is a 2 mana cost, 2 different color legendary creature permanent that is gonna benefit Sisay a lot, making Sisay into a 4/4 for only 2 mana. That is okay-ish, and Thrasius is okay-ish. And you could also include in that case Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, which is also a legendary Sisay could find. So you begin with finding both Thrasius and then Jace, and then you activate Thrasius until your deck is gone and you're winning the game with this Planeswalker. But there's other things you could also do, so in the end, your creativity sets the limit. But if you're going for this combo, you could also include Tainted Pact and Demonic Consultation if you want to have more combos inside your Sisay deck. I am so looking forward to be playing with this thing. I think it's gonna be a blast, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and you wanna support me, feel free to share my videos or even checking out my Patreon page. Also, purchasing cards from the TCG Players website using the affiliate link in the description below of the video will also help the channel grow. So a big thank you to all of you.